Of course. Here's Section 1, 500 words minimum, of the script written in a direct, emotionally engaging, first-person narrative, with no fluff or repetition, and tailored for a faceless video voiceover format. I never thought a single night could change the way I saw my father. It was a Thursday, early October. I remember because I had stayed late after class to help a friend finish a group project. I wasn't supposed to be downtown that late, but I figured I'd grab something to eat before heading home. That's when I saw him. At first, I thought it was just someone who looked like him. Same coat, same walk. But then he turned his head slightly, and there was no doubt. It was my father. I froze. He wasn't alone. A woman was walking beside him, tall, stylish, maybe in her 30s. They were laughing. Not just casual laughter. The kind where you lean in like the world around you doesn't exist. He looked happy. A different kind of happy. The kind I hadn't seen in a long time. Not with my mother. They crossed the street and walked toward a hotel. I didn't follow right away. I stood across the street, heart racing, hoping I had misunderstood what I saw. Maybe it was work-related. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe. But when I saw him reach for her hand and intertwine his fingers with hers, my stomach dropped. I didn't want to believe it. I followed at a distance, staying just far enough that he wouldn't notice. They stopped at the hotel entrance. She looked up at him and smiled. He said something that made her laugh again, and then they went in. For a few minutes, I stood there, staring at the glass doors like they would open back up and offer some explanation. Any explanation. I felt like the ground had tilted beneath me. My father, my family's anchor, the one who always preached honesty and loyalty, was walking into a hotel with another woman. On the train ride home, I kept replaying what I'd seen. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. I tried to come up with any excuse that would make it okay. But I knew what I saw. And I knew it wasn't innocent. When I got home, my mother was folding laundry in the living room, humming to herself. She asked me how my day was. I told her it was fine. I don't know how I managed to speak normally. I don't know how I didn't cry. I watched her for a moment. The way she smiled without knowing what I knew. The way she trusted the life she'd built. I felt sick. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, wondering what I was supposed to do now. Was I supposed to confront him? Stay quiet? Pretend I hadn't seen anything? Every scenario felt wrong. What do you do when the person you've looked up to your entire life turns out to be someone else entirely? I didn't know it then, but nothing would ever feel normal again after that night. Of course. Here's Section 2 of the script with a minimum of 500 words, continuing directly from Section 1. It's written with emotional clarity, strong pacing, and no repetition, tight, high-quality storytelling suitable for a faceless voiceover format. For days, I kept it to myself. I thought maybe if I stayed quiet it would go away. Maybe I could forget what I saw. But I couldn't. Every time I looked at him, I saw that night. His smile with her. His hand in hers. Something shifted in the way I heard his voice, like there was a hidden layer under everything he said. He came home late the next few nights. Said he had meetings. Traffic. Clients who wouldn't stop talking. I listened. Nodded. But I was listening for something else now, pauses, lies, the way his eyes never really met mine when he spoke. My mother didn't seem to notice anything different. She still made his favorite tea in the evenings. Still kissed him goodnight. Still believed in him completely. I started watching him more closely. Not obviously, just enough to notice patterns. His phone was always on silent. He used to leave it around the house, now it never left his pocket. He'd take calls outside, even in the rain. I caught him once, whispering, smiling softly. I stood behind the curtain and didn't move until he hung up. When he came back inside, he acted like nothing happened. Eventually, I couldn't help myself. I went through his phone while he was in the shower. My hands were shaking. I knew I shouldn't. I knew it was wrong. But what I found made everything worse. Her name was saved under something innocent. MK Logistics. The messages weren't business. They were long, emotional, filled with inside jokes, late-night thoughts, and things he'd never text my mother. He told her she made him feel seen again. Said he hadn't felt alive like this in years. That line cut deeper than anything else. Not just because of what it meant about their relationship, but what it said about his marriage. About the life I thought they had. About the father I thought I knew. I couldn't look at my mother the same after that. She was still living in the world I had left behind. A world where my father was loyal, honest, safe. I watched her plan their anniversary dinner, talking about surprising him with a weekend getaway. I almost told her right then. The words burned in my throat, but I said nothing. Instead, I started remembering things I'd overlooked. The distance between them at the dinner table. The nights he'd work late, and she'd sit up watching TV alone. The way she stopped asking questions about his day. Maybe she knew something wasn't right. Or maybe she just didn't want to know. I felt angry. Not just at him, but at myself for being part of this lie. For helping keep it alive just by staying quiet. Every day I didn't speak felt like betrayal. Not just of her, but of the version of myself that still wanted to believe in him. I had proof now. No more doubt. No more excuses. He was having an affair, and I was the only one who knew. Absolutely. Here's section 3, with a minimum of 500 words, continuing the story with clarity, precision, and emotional depth. It maintains a strong narrative pace, avoids repetition, and sticks to the core tension without any filler. I couldn't carry it anymore. The silence was eating me from the inside. Every conversation with him felt like a test I was failing. I started speaking less, avoiding eye contact, keeping my distance. He noticed. He asked if everything was okay. I said I was just tired.
He believed me.
Or maybe he didn't want to look too closely. I rehearsed a confrontation in my head 100 times. Sometimes I imagined yelling, exposing everything in one explosive moment. Other times I pictured a quiet, private conversation, just him and me, no anger, just truth. But no version ever felt right. How do you look your own father in the eyes and ask him why he's betraying your mother? One night, I came home earlier than usual. His car was in the driveway, but the house was dark. I walked inside and heard him talking. Not loudly, but with that same gentle tone he used when I was a kid and I'd cry at night. I followed the sound and realized he was on the phone. Her voice came through faintly on speaker. He was telling her that he couldn't keep doing this forever, that the guilt was catching up to him, that he felt torn every day. But then he said something that made my chest tighten. He said he didn't know if he loved my mother anymore, that maybe he was staying out of obligation, that if it weren't for me, he would have left already. I stepped back before he noticed I was there. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I just stood there, letting it sink in. He wasn't just lying to my mother. He was using me as the reason for staying, as if his betrayal somehow became my burden to carry. Later that night, I couldn't hold it in anymore. We were alone in the kitchen. He asked me how school was, and I looked straight at him and asked, "Do you love her?" He went quiet. I didn't clarify who I meant. He didn't ask. He knew. He asked why I was asking that. I told him I saw him weeks ago. The hotel. The woman. I told him I read the messages. There was nothing left to hide. He sat down slowly, like all the weight he'd been carrying finally became too heavy. He didn't deny it. Didn't get angry. He just looked at me and said, "I never wanted you to find out." I asked him how long it had been going on. He said almost a year. A year of lies. A year of pretending. A year of smiling at the dinner table while keeping a separate life hidden behind locked screens and fake meetings. He apologized, but it didn't land. I didn't want an apology. I wanted the version of him I used to believe in. I told him I wasn't going to lie for him, that I wouldn't be part of covering it up. He nodded, but he didn't look surprised. Maybe he knew it was all unraveling. Maybe he'd just been waiting for it. Here is section 4, with 500 plus words, continuing directly from the previous sections and concluding the story with clarity, emotional weight, and no repetition. It delivers a powerful and grounded resolution without any unnecessary build-up. After that night, everything felt different. He didn't try to explain much. Maybe he knew there was no version of this that would make sense to me. He started coming home earlier, being more present, but it felt hollow. Like he was trying to play a role he no longer believed in. My mother didn't notice right away. She was just happy he seemed more invested again. That was the word she used, invested. As if their marriage had become a business deal that needed attention. I watched her make excuses for his past behavior, rewriting old moments with new hope. She said things like, "He's been under pressure," or, "I think he's trying again." I wanted to scream, to pull her out of that illusion, but I couldn't bring myself to be the one who broke her. Not yet. A week later, I sat down with him again. No anger this time, just clarity. I asked if he planned to tell her. He didn't answer right away. He just looked tired. Then he said, "I don't want to hurt her." I told him it was too late for that. That the moment he crossed the line, the damage was already done. He nodded, but it didn't feel like agreement. It felt like surrender. He asked me what I thought he should do. I told him it wasn't my decision to make. I wasn't going to carry the consequences for him. If he wanted to repair what was left, it had to start with honesty. Not just for her, but for himself. I said, "You can't lie forever. It'll rot you from the inside." He promised he would tell her. I didn't know if he meant it or not. At that point, his words didn't hold weight for me anymore. I was already learning how to separate who he was from who I needed him to be. It hurt, but it was necessary. I never told my mother myself. Some people think that makes me weak. Maybe it does. But I decided that if the truth was going to come out, it needed to come from him, not from me. She deserved to hear it from the man who made the choice, not from the child who got caught in the crossfire. Weeks passed, then months. One evening, I came home and found her sitting quietly in the kitchen. Eyes red, phone face down on the table. She didn't say much, just asked me to sit. Then she said, "He told me." That's all. No yelling. No breakdown. Just a quiet acceptance, like something inside her had already known. She didn't ask how I knew.
She didn't blame me.
She just said, "Thank you for not lying to me." I think that hurt even more than if she'd shouted. Her trust had been broken, but she still gave me a piece of it. And I held on to it carefully, like something fragile. In the weeks that followed, the house felt quieter. More real. Less pretending. My father moved into the guest room. They stopped touching, stopped planning things together. But they also started talking again. Honest, hard conversations. I don't know where they'll end up. Maybe together. Maybe not. What I do know is this. When you see someone you love become someone you don't recognize, you don't just lose them. You lose the version of yourself that trusted them without question. That version of me is gone. But in its place, there's something stronger. Something that knows truth matters, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts.